I want to start by introducing your hosts for this evening. I'll start. My name is Jessica Goldstein. I am the Child Neurology Residency Program Director. I'm a general child neurologist, and I am just absolutely thrilled to be here to introduce our program to you. Emily?
Hi, everyone. I'm Emily Borman-Shope. I am the Pediatric Residency Program Director here at the University of Minnesota, and we will be close partners with the Child Neurology Program because Child Neurology residents spend their first 2 years rotating with us. So I'm excited to tell you about that aspect of the training.
Peter?
Hi, everybody. I'm Peter Kang. I'm a pediatric neuromuscular neurologist, and I arrived here in Minnesota about 3.5 years ago. I'm the vice chair of research for the Department of Neurology, and I'm also president of the Child Neurology Society.
Thank you. And then Allie.
Hi, I'm Allie Hemphill, and I am the Child Neurology Residency Administrator. So I'm the behind the scenes of all things the residency and get to partner with all of these wonderful people.
Awesome, thanks. So for the next 25 minutes or so, we're going to give you a pretty in-depth overview of what you could expect training at the University of Minnesota. And then we'll have plenty of time at the end to go through any questions, but feel free as we're going along to put questions into the chat, and we'll do our best to answer anything and everything that you would like to know before we end the webinar today. So we are a residency that is committed to preparing the future leaders of child neurology to contribute meaningfully to the field through clinical excellence in alignment with their individual passions. But what does that mean? What could a resident expect if they are coming to our program? Well, you can expect that you will be prepared to practice child neurology in any practice setting that you might be interested in. You will serve diverse communities through multiple sites and different practice models. You will have numerous opportunities to explore and foster your individual passions, and you will get the chance to work with experienced, enthusiastic, and supportive leadership and faculty. And finally, you can rely on the fact that you will find support, mentorship, and opportunities that are individualized to your residency journey while you're here with us. In addition, if you're joining us for our first year, our grand reopening, as we've been calling it, you will have the unique opportunity to really shape the culture of our program, which really, I think, will remain in place for years to come. So this is a really exciting time to be looking at the University of Minnesota Child Neurology Residency Program. This is the leadership team. You've met a number of the different people already on the slide. In addition, I just wanted to introduce you to Dr. Schmolstig. He is the Adult Neurology Program Director. And then Rossi Cannon, who's our Education Manager, overseeing all of the education that takes place within the full spectrum of neurology. So I wanted to talk a little bit about the fact that we are a new residency, but really this is more of a reopening rather than a brand new endeavor. Child neurology training at the University of Minnesota has quite the legacy, starting way back in the late 60s, early 70s with Dr. Ken Swayman. And he trained an entire generation of child neurologists, as did A.B. Baker, who is the founder of the American Academy of Neurology. So both the Child Neurology Society and the American Academy of Neurology have found their homes and their starts at the University of Minnesota and remain in Minnesota today. We have a rich history of neurological discovery, and we're really excited to be reopening a program so we can continue the tradition of child neurology education. The future of child neurology leadership is also in our program. As Dr. King mentioned, he is the current president of the Child Neurology Society, and we love having his leadership and insight into all the things that are going on within that organization as well. All right, so let's talk a little bit about the different practices and communities that you can expect to see while you're here at the U. We are a multi-site residency, which means you'll spend time at 4 different hospital systems. The University of Minnesota, or mHealth Fairview, is your home base. This is sort of the academic health hospital that you often will be doing rotations at through both the peds years and the child neurology years. Hennepin Healthcare, which is just a few minutes way down the road, is really sort of our catch-all hospital. You'll have an opportunity to do rotations there in the general peds years, the adult neurology years, and the child neurology years. Children's Minnesota actually has two campuses, one in Minneapolis and one in St. Paul, although the majority of rotations occur in the Minneapolis campus. And here it's a community hospital with a lot of different practice models that you get to work within. And then Gillette Children's, which is a really unique subspecialty children's hospital that specializes in the care of medical complexity. And what I want to point out is that it can feel a little bit overwhelming to have multiple different sites that you could be rotating at. And the first thing I want you to know is the sites are all within 7 miles. So the twin cities are Minneapolis and St. Paul, and these cities are very close together. It's really like one big metropolitan area. But we serve a very diverse community that really extends beyond the twin cities to include the state of Minnesota as well. We also have a large immigrant and refugee community. And so you have the opportunity to work with different patients and communities throughout all 5 years of your training. We have a diverse and very deep bench for our faculty. You can see here that our child neurology faculty is made up of the group at Masonic Children's Hospital, which includes myself and Dr. King, as well as all of our colleagues pictured here. And then you also have an opportunity to rotate with 4 other practices within the Twin Cities that are housed at each of those sites. So HCMC, Gillette Children's, Children's Minnesota from Rand Neurology, and then also a practice group called Minnesota Epilepsy Group. Each of these groups represents a different way that you can practice child neurology. And so you really get an opportunity to sample how you could set up your own practice and where you might fit as you're thinking about what your future career could look like. We are recruiting for a 5-year categorical program, and we are welcoming 2 residents per class. You can expect that in your general pediatrics years, this will be the first 2 years of your training. You'll be embedded within the pediatrics class, and so really part of the class that you're entering with, and you will complete all the rotations necessary to sit for the American Board of Pediatrics exam if you want to. You will participate at those 4 core sites that we just took a look at, and you will participate in a pediatrics continuity clinic for those 2 years. The final 3 years of training occur in the neurology section, and our adult neurology training is dispersed over those 3 years alongside your child neurology rotations. You will learn alongside your adult neurology colleagues, sort of expanding the community of resident trainees that you're working with. You'll remain at those 4 core sites, but you will now participate in the pediatric neurology continuity clinic for all 3 of those years. I'm going to turn things over to Emily to introduce a little bit more about the general pediatrics years and what you can expect for those first 2 years of your training.
Thank you. And I think you're kind of getting the gist of some of the focus of our training and the culture that we're really proud of here from an educational standpoint. So really the multi-site nature of the child neurology program, I would say, is modeled after and really works in a continuum with the multi-site nature of the pediatric residency program. So the opportunity to work at all of those multiple sites really helps you get this incredible depth and breadth and foundation in general pediatrics before you head into your child neurology years. We really put a huge emphasis on your well-being, on creating a safe and supportive learning environment, and engaging residents in shaping their careers and in their residency experience as well. We have quite a bit of experience with partnering with other combined residency programs. We have a really large med-peds program, so we have a lot of experience with balancing different schedules. We have a physician scientist training pathway within the peds program. So we've done a lot of work already in making creative schedules and welcoming people who might have a slightly different training path. And I think we've had really great success there. We have a really robust leadership team at the PEDS level. So myself and a big cadre of associate program directors. We have a lot of people who really are passionate about medical education and supporting trainees. That would all be a part of your journey as a resident here at the University of Minnesota. And one of the things we really actually it just sort of happens, but we're certainly happy to support it, is just how much our residents are a family and how much they support one another. They enjoy spending time together. They're going out for social events together. They're volunteering together. They're watching out for each other during their day-to-day work. So some of the things you could expect during the 2 years that are the pediatrics portion of your training We have structured curriculum that is called, you'd hear the peds residents call it block ed. I think the neurology residents call theirs Friday school. You would hear it called academic half days if you were reading a medical education article about it. But the idea is that it's a protected half day where you have no clinical responsibilities and you all come together as residents just to learn. And that's been a huge opportunity for us to deliver really high quality curriculum, have our faculty come in and do a lot of case-based learning, workshop-based learning. So that's a really big benefit of our curriculum. We do mock codes at all of our sites. We do case-based briefer teaching either in the morning or over the noon hour. We have a special Friday conference series called Lunch and Learn that has a bunch of different threads, including things like board review. We have a special series called Health Equity Rounds that happens once a quarter, where we really take a deep dive into a patient case and look at it through the lens of health equity and how barriers to care or health inequities may have impacted a patient. We want to make sure you're well prepared to pass your PEDS boards if you chose to take them. And so all of our residents have access not only to the AAP prep question bank, which is 250 questions per year, but an additional very large question bank called True Learn, where you get 1,000 questions per year and 1,000 questions to last you through your final year before you go to sit for boards. Huge amount of elective opportunities. And as we were kind of alluding to, we're the only pediatric residency in the metropolitan area. So that means that anything that's going on, interesting patients, great mentors, good clinical environment, you're going to have access to it. And the child neurology residency will fall into that same boat. It's going to be the only show in town. So if there's something interesting happening with children's brains, you're going to be able to be in the mix. Advocacy is really important to us across the whole medical school, but certainly within our PEDS program. We use one of our block education days every year to do an advocacy day at the Capitol, where everyone goes to the state capitol in St. Paul and meets with their elected officials to advocate for children. And we also create infrastructure for residents to take individual days where they may go volunteer in the community or work on an advocacy project.
Thanks,
All
Emily.
right, back to neurology.
All right, so let's, after we kind of have gone through our 2 years of pediatrics, we turn to the neurology years. And I wanted to just take a moment to comment on how we put this curriculum together, because we really designed it to give you this very comprehensive foundation and what you need to know to be a clinical child neurologist. But we wanted to build in the individualization, that chance to pursue the things that you're most passionate about, and then also have time for balance and growth, because so much of life happens in those 5 years that you're a resident. We touched on this already, but each site does provide experience with a different child neurology practice model. So at Masonic Children's Hospital, which is sort of the home base, you'll really be within the academic child neurology group. Children's is a community private practice model. Gillette's sort of a community academic model. And then HCMC is community private practice. So you'll really get a chance to see that full spectrum of clinical practice while you're in training. As you launch from the pediatrics years into the neurology years, you get to participate in a 1-month rotation at the end of the second year called boot camp. This is a highlight of the year for our adult neurology residents, and we anticipate will be a highlight of the experience for our child neurology residents as well. It takes place at the American Academy of Neurology headquarters in Minneapolis, and it is an entire month that is academic, where you are completely immersed in the study and sort of mastery of clinical neurology and neuroscience. So you spend time with your classmates reviewing neuroanatomy, getting down the basics of EEG, EMG, spending time practicing really tough conversations with our palliative care doctors, having a chance to get some introduction to some of the clinical neurology that you'll be practicing, and then really do some work related to your research and QI initiatives, as well as some work related to professional development. All of our residents complete the AAN anti-racism curriculum during this month as well, which we have been doing with our adult neurology residents with really, really wonderful feedback in terms of what they take from that experience and bring with them into the clinical years. This will occur with your adult neurology classmates, but you will have sessions that are pulled out that are designed just for the child neurologist. So a chance to meet your new classmates, but also spend time together. Our adult neurology rotations were really designed with the child neurologist in mind. So you will do 4 blocks of adult neurology each year that you're in the neurology year. So PGY3 through PGY5. 2 blocks are inpatient, 1 block is outpatient, and then you'll do 1 block each of neuroradiology, neuropathology, and adult epilepsy spread out over those 3 years. Right now, there is no 24-hour call within the adult neurology residency. We do anticipate there'll be some night float experiences where you'll be paired with an adult neurology resident to work on autonomy and decision-making on some of those more off-hour times, because we think there's value in learning alongside one of your colleagues. And I want to just give an example of what we're talking about when we talk about designing an adult neurology rotation for the child neurologist. So one of our adult neurology outpatient months, we are designing to be a neurogenetics month where you get to be immersed in the genetic disorders that you would see more commonly in young adult patients or older adult patients. You would get to spend time in the Huntington's disease clinic, in the ALS clinic, some time with the genetic counselors, really kind of seeing the full life spectrum of how neurogenetics can be practiced. Our child neurology rotations then take place again for all 3 of those final neurology years and really allow you to fully experience the education that each site has to offer. Each year, you'll do 3 blocks of a child neurology consult inpatient service, 1 to 2 blocks of child neurology outpatient, and then you'll have a menu of selectives and electives where you can start to individualize the rotations and experiences that you want to supplement that base rotation experience in the child neurology inpatient and outpatient rotations. During these blocks, you'll be on home call with faculty supervision at 2 of the 4 sites, Masonic Children's Hospital and Children's of Minnesota. Just to give you a flavor of the number of electives and selectives that you have available to you, selectives, when we talk about that here at the University of Minnesota, these are rotations that we require everyone to complete at some point during their training, but they can choose when they do it, so that if there's something that they want to have experience or exposure in a little bit earlier, they have that flexibility to build it into their schedule in such a way that it makes sense for their long-term goals. But everybody completes the selectives just on their own timeframes. And then the elective menu is really extensive and includes both experiences in child neurology and adult neurology. Our continuity clinic in child neurology is held at the Masonic Institute of the Developing Brain, which is a really brand new, beautiful, multidisciplinary space that's dedicated to the pediatric neurosciences and houses both a clinic and a large research facility, as well as offices and classrooms and meeting spaces. The continuity clinic will take place for a half day each week with rotating faculty preceptors during the PGY 3 through 5 years, and you are the primary child neurologist for your panel of patients. What's really cool about clinic at this location is that you get to learn and practice alongside the residents and fellows who are training in developmental behavioral pediatrics, neuropsychology, psychiatry, psychology. So everyone's there together, and there are multidisciplinary conferences where everyone comes together and has a chance to talk a little bit about patients that we're seeing with lots of overlap and interest and perspective. So really enriches the care that you're providing and the education that you're participating in. As Emily mentioned, we also do an academic half day during the neurology years. We do call it Friday school. We are building the child neurology Friday school to be an 18-month curriculum that really centers on the American Board of Psychiatry and Neurology content. So this is what you need to for practice and for boards. We also have a number of longitudinal sessions that run for all 3 years, and they're listed there, but really designed to give you a really well-rounded didactic education that you'll need as you're moving from residency and into practice. I don't want you to be worried about the word didactic that I just used, because these are interactive. They're designed as workshops, small group learning sessions, really designed to be hands-on experiences where you get to take knowledge that you're learning and apply it in real time. And we are planning to have this Friday school run alongside the adult neurology with opportunities for combined sessions and sessions that are individualized to each group's needs. And then finally, we've talked a lot about individualization, and I just wanted to highlight that we are going to be offering a number of different tracks. They're really designed to help you dive into the things that you are most passionate about and spend time learning more about those topics, or to explore topics or topics or tracks that you might be interested in. So pediatrics offers a global health or global pediatrics track. We have a number of different opportunities to become engaged in justice, equity, diversity, inclusion, and advocacy work. There is both a medical education track on the pediatrics years, as well as in the adult neurology or in the neurology years called NET. And then we have a number of different opportunities to be engaged with research, including a very specific track called Sprint for those that are really desiring a deep dive into research methodology, scholarship, and publication. And I'm going to turn things over to Peter to check just a little bit more about the research opportunities that we have here at the University of Minnesota.
We're really dedicated to integrating residents and other trainees into our research activities. And the goal is not to turn every single resident into a physician scientist. For those who end up wanting to do that, that's great. But the goal is for the resident to get exposure to it so that they know, do I like research? Do I not like research? And if I don't want to pursue research myself, at least I know how to read the literature and look at it critically. With that goal in mind, we really have robust opportunities to get involved to whatever degree that you feel comfortable with. And so some residents may carve out a clinical project, and that's fairly self-contained and doable within a few years. And you'll be paired with a mentor. There'll be probably a small handful of residents who are interested in an actual laboratory experience. That's not something we'll ever push somebody towards, but for those who really are eager to experience laboratory work, we can carve out a way to do that. And I've been a program director at another institution in the past, and so I have a sense of how that's put together. It's definitely not something that we will ever push upon anybody. But Dr. Goldstein mentioned the Masonic Institute of the Developing Brain. That's an incredible resource. I'm the director of the Greg Marzolf Jr. Muscular Dystrophy Center, so we do a lot of muscular dystrophy research that's translational and very relevant to patient care. And so every resident will be conducting a scholarly project with an assigned faculty mentor, and there'll be guidance also through a residency research council, and there'll be opportunities to present. We have an annual Kennedy Symposium in the Department of Neurology, and the child neurology residents will be integrated into that. There are opportunities for grand rounds presentations. And there are some funds available to support some travel to a national meeting when you have opportunities to present your research. So there are lots of opportunities, and these sort of foster your career growth in whatever way you feel is most useful to you.
Thanks. The last thing I wanted to touch on is sort of the idea of flourish or well-being during your residency. And there's so much time that you spend as a resident. 5 years is a long time. A lot of life happens in that time. And we want to have you have the chance to be fully present with the residents that you meet and the communities that you're living in. And so, you know, there are numerous events where they're hosted by the residency program, including social events. We have neurology wellness groups in which residents from each class are in a group alongside faculty and do fun things around the city. My group is going to the Minnehaha Falls and then out to dinner in a few weeks. We go bowling at Elsie's, things like that. We have a robust advising program where you're assigned an advisor from day one of your residency, and you work with that person through all 5 years with the opportunity to add mentors and coaches and advisors as you go along, really building a professional development network, but with that touch person right at the beginning. And both the pediatrics and neurology years have residency retreats, which are really designed as a moment of reflection, recharging, community, and connection. I also just want to emphasize that the residents here, I think Emily used the word family, and that's the vibe I always see, is that the residents here are enthusiastic, engaged, excited, and they're really excited to welcome child neurology residents into the family that they have created. The last thing I want to say is that the Twin Cities is a really fun place to live. We do have all the seasons. I think most of the time everyone hears about the snow, and we do have snow, but we also have a beautiful fall, a beautiful spring, a beautiful summer. There's lots of opportunities to find restaurants that you might enjoy. music, hiking. I don't know, Emily and Peter, if you have anything that you like to highlight, but I'm always struck by the new things the residents are finding and telling me about that they're really excited. Our state fair just wrapped up, which is always a good time.
I think it's a wonderful state for a whole range of activities. There's a lot of opportunities for sports and outdoor activities and lots of cultural activities. It's an incredible place to live.
Yeah, I think just the like mixture of big city benefits with, concert series and sporting events and theater and great food scene. But then there's just so much green space and so much blue space, right? It's the land of 10,000 lakes. So you pretty much drive a couple of blocks and you're going to have a beautiful lakeside hiking trail or walking path that you can find. And I think all of us who live here, that's what we love about it, is that you get the amenities of a big city, but you still have so much access to nature and, really wonderful neighborhoods. The school systems are great if that's something that's important to you. And I think it's just a very welcoming and, open place to live that is supportive of lots of different people.
I also have to call out like fishing, hunting. I have 2 kids and my kids are obsessed with fishing, paddle boarding, canoeing. So like not only like of course all the music scene and the theater scene is amazing for my kids too. And also like the Minneapolis Institute of Arts has an amazing like child theater, like children's theater. But they love to like just fish and paddleboard and canoe. And so that is like a really fun, like outdoor activity that can happen really from spring, summer, and fall.
Awesome. Yeah. So we can talk about Minnesota all day long, but it is a really fun place to live. And I think the residents are always finding new ways to get out and explore and then share with us where the cool new things are to do. So a little bit of logistics as we're going to head into the interview and recruitment season here. It's just opening right now. Is September 25th. AIRS will open for us to be able to review all of the applications. And then we will be following the universal offer date for child neurology of October 10th. Our interviews will run from October 24th to December 19th. And then we will be participating with the general pediatrics second look or optional in-person visit that occurs on February 7th. And this will be after we have certified our rank list. So that's an entirely an opportunity for you to come check out Minnesota during its most beautiful month of February and really get a chance to meet some of the peds residents, some of the neurology residents, and just learn a little bit more about the program. Just for your information, our interview days will probably run from about 8 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. Central Time Zone, but we will be providing additional opportunities for you to connect virtually with the peds residents and the adult neurology residents more informally throughout the interview season. And so with that, I'm going to stop and welcome you to go ahead and put any questions that you have into the chat or into the Q&A, and we will do our best to answer your questions.
There, I accidentally clicked answer live for one of the questions that I will let you address.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. So the question in the chat was asking about visa requiring applicants, and we will be considering visa requiring applicants. We are right now able to support a J1 visa, but we hope that anyone who might be interested will reach out, share their materials with us, and we can take a look at your application.
I know the child neurology program is really building up your materials for applicants to review. We were just doing a video shoot today, actually, Dr. Goldstein and I. It made us feel very fancy. But as that stuff is getting loaded, I would certainly encourage you to check out the pediatric residency programs materials and the neurology residency programs materials, because I think it'll just really give you a nice flavor of our residents and our faculty and what we all love about living and working here. and just more and more to come as we continue to share more information about the child neurology program.
Yeah, I will just echo that. I really I think that there's a lot that you can learn from following the other two programs' Instagram accounts. Also, checking out the websites. It's really a program that spans sort of all of those different spaces, and so it will give you a good sense of the vibes and the feelings as you're kind of looking through everything. I see a couple more questions in the chat, and so the next question is, what is the most important factor the program considers when selecting applicants? Which I think is a really great question. So we are looking for people who are really excited about becoming child neurologists, and in particularly are very clinically oriented with individual passion. So a lot of the things I talked about, right? Like if there's something that you love to do, we want to find a way to make that happen. I think that as people are looking at our program, they should think about whether or not they like the multi-site model. I think there's a lot of wonderful things about training in a place where you get to experience many different hospital systems and practice models. But if you're somebody, Emily shared this with me earlier, but if you're somebody who likes to park on the same level of the hospital ramp every single day, that might not be the place where you want to be. So we're hoping that this is somebody who really has that sense of adventure, really likes to try things out, problem solve, and really work in different communities and different hospitals and practice settings. The other thing I would just mention is, in particular, this first year, we are really looking for partners as we're building the program. This is our inaugural class, and we're really excited to bring people in who want to be partners with us in developing the vibe, giving us feedback, sharing with us their experiences. And so the impact you can have coming this first year, I think will have long-reaching ramifications as we go ahead. I don't know, Emily, if there's anything else you look for just as you're thinking about some of the PEDS years, or Peter.
In my office at work, I have a sign behind me that says work hard and be nice. So sometimes I
Like that.
point to that. I mean, I think we really have been doing holistic review before it was trendy and before it was called that. I think we are really interested in bringing in future, pediatricians and child neurologists who have all different lived experiences and bring all different strengths to the practice of medicine. And so we're not looking for a step cutoff. We're not looking for a certain number of abstracts that you've presented at a national meeting. We're looking at what makes you special and what will make you special as a child neurologist.
So I'd like to add to that a comment that Jessica made about how exciting it is to be with a new program. And again, it's not totally new, it's a refreshed program. But one thing you'll never hear from us is, we've been doing something the same way for 20 years and we're not going to change because everything's new or newish. And so we really will be looking at the first few classes as people to help us mold what the program will look like. So ideas that you have, innovations, could end up influencing the program for decades to come. So I think it's a really exciting opportunity.
Thank you. All right, our next question is, are there any cases or subspecialties that are usually sent out from the U of M to other specialty centers of care? For example, I've heard other programs say movement disorders are generally sent to a handful of national specialty centers. So I think this is one of the unique things about being the only child neurology residency program in town, is that because you get to be at each center, you're going to see all of the cases. There are certainly centers that may have more expertise or more experience with something versus another, but you're going to actually be rotating at all of them. So, for example, if we have a patient who we think would benefit from a more intense surgical workup at Masonic, they might have a consult at our colleagues at Minnesota Epilepsy Group, but you're rotating there too. So you'll get the opportunity to see all of that. I would say at the University of Minnesota, we often have a lot of referrals in for neuromuscular cases. I don't know, Peter, if you want to talk a little bit more about the Muscular Dystrophy Center, but I feel like you really see patients from a very large area of the region.
Yeah, we routinely get referrals from out of state, not only in neuromuscular, but other subspecialties as well. So, there are times when we will be asking a colleague at Gillette for an opinion about something, and vice versa. There are patients that are referred back and forth. We really have a nice collegial relationship with all the hospitals in town. it is a little unusual for someone, and it's usually of their own initiative. If a patient wants to go out of town for a second opinion, they're welcome to do that. We very rarely feel the need to initiate that ourselves. But like everywhere else, we don't object if someone wants to do that. That's pretty rare in my experience.
Yeah, and I will just mention too that the University of Minnesota is actually a center for gene therapy and bone marrow transplant for adrenal leukodystrophies and a number of other leukodystrophies. And so actually many programs will refer to the University of Minnesota for that particular disorder and condition. And it's one of the centers that you get a chance to really experience and learn a lot about alongside our oncology colleagues. All right, our next question is, I'm curious if USMLE step 1 or 2 will be required for DO students, or will COMLEX be accepted? So COMLEX is accepted, COMLEX is accepted. You don't have to do the USMLE step 1 or 2. All right. The next question is about IMG, if there's any cutoff or specific requirements related to the application status, and how important is signaling this cycle. So we don't have any specific cutoffs or requirements. There's no graduation year that we're looking for. There's no specific experience. We certainly are looking for people who have had some clinical experience or some experience in the United States, certainly looked favorably upon, but we will look at any application that we are sent. There's no board or board score cutoff for anything like that. We're really doing a full holistic review. The couple of things that we would just mention is that you would need to be able to be ECFMGA certified and be able to obtain a license to practice in the state of Minnesota. Those are sort of the baseline kind of core requirements. But aside from that, we'll be looking at the entire application and really trying to understand everyone who's applying and all of the things that you're bringing to the table. All right, Emily, was there one that you were going to answer and then it floated away?
Oh, I didn't know that would make it disappear. Rose asked a question about opportunities to partner with the Native American community. So I'll just say what I typed. Yes, there's a number of really exciting opportunities to serve Native American kids and their families. First of all, they're just our patients. We have a pretty large metropolitan Native American community. So they'll be the patients who will come to your continuity clinic and who you'll be seeing in the hospitals. But we also, through our global health track, have a long-standing relationship with the Rosebud community in South Dakota, and now have a new really wonderful relationship that we're building with the White Earth community. And those are opportunities that you could take advantage of during your PEDS portion of your training. And I think those are just growing opportunities for us as well.
Thank you. All right, one more question in the chat. I also wanted to know, how does the program measure improvements or changes in its growth areas? How does feedback between the attending program directors and residents happen? So this is a great question, and actually it's something that we would be partnering with our residents as we're going into this new year. We will be looking for feedback very directly in terms of your rotation experiences and what you think might make them even better. And that would be happening sort of in an informal way, in a formal way using rotation evaluations, and then also in conversations or meetings with the program leadership. Every few months, we have opportunities for the residents to sit together and go talk sort of in a closed door session about the things that they're worried about or have questions about, and then those can get relayed back to the program leadership through the chief residents. And that would be something that we would be including our child neurology residents in, because we think it's a really important component of developing leadership, and also having a chance to talk freely about the things that you're worried about or concerned about, and then bring that back to the program. And then the other piece that I wanted to say is that one of the things that we're really committed to is creating a feedback culture that's really designed around growth. And so we're all going to be growing and learning together in this situation. And we really welcome your feedback in a very honest way so that we can continue to improve and give you exactly the rotation experiences that you're looking for. I don't know, Emily, if you want to talk a little bit about how you do this with the PEDS residency.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, through a number of different avenues, I think similar to what you were mentioning. So we have residents identified as what we call class representatives. Usually 2 or 3 per class. Sometimes if a lot of people are interested, I don't limit it. So sometimes there's 5. And I meet with them every month and I just say, like, tell me everything. What's working well? What do you want me to work on? Sometimes it's like, oh, I wish we could have different sandwiches at noon conference. And, sometimes it's, questions about wishing they had a different elective opportunity, or could we change the schedule at a certain site? So we really try to have, very open door and predictable access for the residents to talk with me and share their feedback. All residency programs have to have something called a program evaluation committee. The minimum requirement is that that committee meets once per year. We've actually taken a sort of rolling approach to that in the PEDS residency, where we do kind of these like in-depth reviews of all of our rotations about every year and a half, and actually like go to the faculty and really walk them through, like, here's what's working well in your rotation, here's some areas for improvement. And that's been a really nice way for us to engage all of the faculty in a teaching group, instead of just always talking to like the one faculty who's the rotation director. Our chief residents, of course, are, like Dr. Goldstein was saying, are huge, liaisons and help to bring us information. And then we really have a very robust and well-organized GME office that supports all of the residency and fellowship programs. And they do a lot of kind of big data collection that allows us to see, trends and strengths for our programs, or areas for improvement too.
Thanks. All right. I'll leave the Q&A open if there are other questions.
Yeah, these were great,
Yeah.
great questions. And I would say, just encourage people not to be shy about reaching out, because I think we really want to make sure that you understand what we have to offer. And if you have, questions that are maybe specific to your application, I'm sure we would be happy to field those.
For sure. Yeah. You definitely jot down our program email and send us questions as they come up, especially as we're kind of going into the application, submission part of the recruitment season, or if questions came up that you felt like you couldn't quite get answered today, but you really wanted to know more about, that's why we're here. And we really want to be able to answer any of those questions for you. Not seeing any other questions. I'll go ahead and close just with saying thank you so much for spending this evening with us, just getting to know our program a little bit better. We are really excited to be reopening the Child Neurology Residency program here, and welcome all of your questions, all of your applications, and look forward to talking with many of you this season. Rose, thank you for that last question. The slides will be available on the website along with a recording of this webinar, so that will all get posted shortly. All right, thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.